right now is all the beautiful young virgins, all the fairest maidens, if you will, of all the land are being brought before this king's chamberlain, so that he can basically make them ready, so the king can have somebody to choose from. So there's going to be, it doesn't exactly say how many women, but they go through a purification process. So basically, I'm in Esther right now, I'm chapter 2, and I was talking a little bit, I started with, I was kind of explaining, how big the kingdom was, and how, the Medo-Persian Empire at that point, kind of spanned so much, there was so much of the empire. It was 2.9, roughly at the time, 2.9 million square miles. And it covered Asia, Africa, and Europe. And so in chapter 2, I was talking about when Esther is brought before Haggai, which is the king's chamberlain, basically the representative for the king, and how it the purification process they had to go through and the years that they had to go through. So basically, I'm in verse 9 of chapter 2, and it says, "And the maiden pleased him, and she obtained kindness of him, and he speedily gave her things for purification, which such things as belonged to her, and 7 maidens which were meet to given her out of the king's house, and he preferred her and her maids unto the best place of the house of the women. Esther had not showed her people nor her kindred, for Mordecai had charged her that she should not show it. And Mordecai walked every day before the court of the women's house to know how Esther did, and what would become of her. And now when every maid's turn was to come to go into King Ahasuerus, after that she had been 12 months, according to the manner of women, for so were the days of the purification accomplished, to wit, 6 months with oil and myrrh, and 6 months with sweet odors, and with other things for the purifying of women. Then thus came every maiden unto the king, whatsoever she desired was given unto her, with her out of the house of the women unto the king's house. In the evening she went, and on the morrow she returned the second house of the women to the custody of Shashgaz, the king's chamberlain, which kept the concubines. She kept in until the king no more, except the king delighted in her, that she were be called by name." So, and this is in verse 15. This is important. It says, "Now when the turn of Esther, the daughter of Abigail, the uncle of Mordecai, who had taken her for his daughter, was come to go into the king, she required nothing but what Haggai, the king's chamberlain, the keeper of the women, appointed. And Esther obtained favor in the sight of all them that looked upon her." So just a little side note, Haggai kind of represents a type of Brother Branham. He's kind of the king's chamberlain, and Esther kind of represents the bride. So we have to go through the purification process that we're going through now here on earth, so that when we become before the king, and when Brother Branham, if you hear some of his sermons, like Brother Jason was talking about the other night, you think it's kind of like a house of judgment. Well, it's just that's what God's house is. It is a house of judgment, but it's a house of love too. But it shows, thank God for Brother Branham to show us what God wanted and kind of get our paths straight, so we can be on the pathway to happiness, as he was talking about. So we're going to move on. That is the main point. So it says, "So Esther was taken unto King Ahasuerus in his royal house in the 10th month, which is the month Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. And the king loved Esther above all the women, and she obtained grace and favor in his sight more than all the virgins, so that he set the royal crown upon her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Then the king made a great feast unto all the princes and his servants, even Esther's feast, and he made a release to the provinces, and gave gifts according to the state of the king. And when the virgins were gathered together the second time, then Mordecai sat in the king's gate. And Esther had not yet shewed her kindred nor her people, as Mordecai had charged her. For Esther did the commandment of Mordecai, like as when she was brought up with him. So basically, Mordecai, when Mordecai tells her to go, that she's going to be, she could possibly be the queen, he tells her not to tell him that she's the Jew. He tells her, you need to not tell who your people are. You don't know what's going to happen. So Esther doesn't. She doesn't tell her people, and she becomes queen. The king found favor in her sight, even though she didn't have the nicest of things. Haggai told her what the king would like, and she did exactly what Haggai said, and she was brought before the king, and the king called her by name, which there in turn made her the queen. Verse 22, "And the king was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen, and Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when the inquisition of the matter was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree." So I missed an important part.
You missed the 21st verse.
21. In those days, while Mordecai sat in the king's gate, 2 of the king's chamberlain, Bithgan and Teresh, of those which kept the door, were wroth, and sought to lay hand on King Ahasuerus. And the thing was known to Mordecai, who told it unto Esther the queen. And Esther certified the king thereof in Mordecai's name. And when the inquisition was made of the matter, it was found out. Therefore they were both hanged on a tree, and it was written in the book of the Chronicles before the king. So right there, it was kind of like a little step. Like it tells you that Mordecai saved the king's life, and it was written, but the king didn't really know. Only nice. As Brother Jason says, tell the president. I'll call him back.
Hey, what's up?
But anyway, this was just kind of like a little thing that was like made known to Esther. It was still not like the king still didn't know, but he basically saved the king's life because 2 of his closest chambermen planned to kill him. So that's just like something to keep in mind for something upcoming. It's in chapter 3. It says, after these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman the son of Hammedatha the Agagite,